Michael was 19 when he first saw his son. Tiny, flushed, with his eyes squeezed shut and his fists clenched as if about to fight. He looked at him through the glass in the maternity ward of a hospital in Reno, Nevada. Kelly, a 19-year-old girl he'd been in his class with, stood next to him. Her face was wet with tears. "Take him in your arms," she said. Michael shook his head. "I can't." "Why?" "Because if I take him, I can't leave." He didn't. He signed a waiver of parental rights, a document that forever erased him from this child's life. He put a dash in the father's name box. Kelly cried. The nurse looked at him with disdain. And Michael thought only one thing. "I'm 19. I don't have a job. I don't have money. I have nothing. I can't be a father." He boarded a bus to Los Angeles and left. He didn't look back. He didn't call. He didn't write. He didn't search. He forbade himself to think about that day, about that hospital, about that child he didn't even hold. A few years later, he met Sophie, got married. And they had 2 daughters. He moved to San Diego, built a successful career as a realtor, and bought a house by the ocean. Life was good. He never told his wife about his son. He never told anyone. There was a hole in his biography that he papered over with happy wallpaper. Everything came crashing down at 53. At first, just fatigue. Then swelling in the mornings, his face would swell. His fingers wouldn't bend. Then blood pressure that wouldn't go down with pills. Michael joked, "Old age is no fun." But Sophie insisted on a checkup. The diagnosis hit him like a blow. End-stage renal failure. His kidneys were failing. Without dialysis, death would occur within months. With dialysis, years, but quality of life would plummet. The only chance was a transplant. Michael was put on the waiting list. His family had tests done. Sophie, his daughters, his sisters, his brothers. No one was a match. His blood type was rare, his tissue compatibility low. The doctors said, "Wait, maybe a donor will come along." Michael waited. A year, 2, 3. Every week he went for dialysis, 4 hours in a chair, blood rushing through tubes, being cleaned. And returned? He looked at those tubes and thought about how quickly life could take a wrong turn. Sometimes, in his delirium, he imagined Kelly's face. And that child? His son. He would have been 23 by now. Where was he? Was he alive? Did he look like him? Michael pushed those thoughts away. Too painful. Too late. One morning, the transplant coordinator called. A woman with a soft, professional voice. "Mr. Aldridge, we have a donor. Anonymous. He's willing to have a transplant. Would you like to know his name?" Michael was silent for a few seconds. "Yes, I would. His name is Jacob Wright. He's 23 years old. He indicated he'd like to meet you before the surgery, if that's okay with you." Michael wrote down the name. He thanked her. He hung up. He sat down on his bed and typed into a search engine, Jacob Wright, Reno, Nevada. The first link led to a young man's profile, a photo of him smiling, hugging a woman. Kelly. She had aged, but he recognized her immediately. Under the photo was the caption, "Jacob Wright, Donor Center Volunteer, Paramedic. Reno Resident." Michael looked at his son's face for the first time in 23 years and couldn't breathe. And heard the same chin, the same brow line, a replica of Michael in his youth. Jacob was handsome, broad-shouldered, with kind eyes. And he wanted to give a kidney to a stranger, unaware that this stranger was his father. They met a week before the surgery in a small cafe in Reno. Michael had flown in from San Diego. He didn't know what to say. He only knew one thing. He had to look into the eyes of the man he'd abandoned. Jacob walked in first. He recognized him immediately. He must have also Googled him. He smiled and extended his hand. "Mr. Aldridge. I'm Jacob." Michael stood up. His hands were shaking. "Call me Michael." They sat down. They ordered coffee. Jacob spoke easily, without tension, about his work, about why he'd decided to become a donor. "My mother was on dialysis. 5 years, until a donor was found. I remember how much she suffered, and I swore that if I could help anyone, I would. I'm lucky, I'm healthy, my kidneys are fine. The doctors say I'm the perfect donor." Michael listened, not believing it. This guy decided to save someone else's life because his mother was suffering. And his father wouldn't even hold him. "Do you know who I am?" Michael asked. "Not just a donor and a recipient." Jacob raised his hand. "I know. I found out when the coordinator said your last name. Aldridge. I've known everything since I was 16. My mother told me." Michael turned pale. "And you still agreed to give me a kidney?" Jacob was silent for a long time. He looked out the window. at the Reno street where he'd spent his fatherless childhood. I thought about it for a long time, he said. I was angry. I hated you. Then I realized, you were 19. You were scared. It's not an excuse, but it's an explanation. My mother raised me alone. She gave me everything. And you're my father. Only by blood. But that blood flows through me. And when I found out that you could be saved, I realized, if I don't agree, I won't be any different from you. And I want to be different. Michael couldn't hold back his tears. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he whispered. I have no right. You don't, Jacob agreed. But I'm giving it. Not to you. To myself. Because I don't want to carry this burden around with me my whole life. The operation was a success. 2 teams of surgeons worked for 8 hours. The kidney was transplanted, and it took. Michael woke up from the anesthesia and the first thing he asked was, "Where's Jacob?" He was told the donor was in the room, doing well. 3 days later, Michael was able to walk. He picked up his cane and walked slowly, pausing, to Jacob's room. He knocked on the door. He entered. Jacob was lying on the bed, pale, but smiling. "Alive?" he asked. "Alive. Thank you. Don't thank me. It's my kidney. I have a right to know it's working." Michael sat down on a chair by the bed. They were silent. Then he said, "I want to be in your life. If you let me." Jacob looked at him for a long moment. There wasn't anger in his eyes, but wariness. "I don't know," he replied. "I lived 23 years without my father. I learned not to need him. If you want to be there, be there. But don't demand that I call you Dad." "I won't," Michael said. They exchanged phone numbers. Jacob was discharged after 5 days. Michael after 10. They moved to different cities. For the first 6 months, Michael called every week. Jacob answered briefly, politely, without warmth. Michael didn't insist. He understood. Trust can't be bought. It can only be earned. Over years, slowly, step by step. A year later, Jacob came to San Diego for a paramedic conference. Michael invited him to dinner. Sophie, Michael's wife, knew the truth. After the surgery, he told her everything. She cried when she found out. But she accepted Jacob without question. Dinner was awkward. Jacob didn't know what to talk about with his father. Sophie tried to joke. Michael's daughters, ages 16 and 14, looked curiously at their older brother, whose existence they'd never even suspected. "I have a brother," the younger one asked. "Cool." Jacob smiled. For the first time that evening, really. They didn't become a family. They didn't become close. Jacob stayed in Reno, Michael in San Diego. But they developed a connection. A thin, fragile bond, like a hair. They texted, sometimes called, and saw each other once a year for Christmas. Michael never forgave himself. He carried the guilt like a heavy stone around his neck, and he knew he would carry it until he died. But he was alive, thanks to the son he'd abandoned. One day, sitting in the backyard overlooking the ocean, Michael asked Sophie, "Do you think I'm a monster?" She was silent for a long time. "I consider you a man who made a mistake. And he's been paying for it his whole life. That's not enough, maybe, but it's better than nothing. Jacob thinks so too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given you his kidney." Michael closed his eyes. The ocean wind blew in his face, salting his lips. He felt empty and warm inside at the same time. He didn't deserve forgiveness. But he received it. Not from himself, from his son. And that was more important. Jacob still calls him Michael. Never father. Sometimes Michael catches himself wanting to hear that word. But he stays silent. Because he has no right to ask. They live their own lives. Side by side. But not together. That's enough. As Jacob said after the operation. "I saved you not because you're my father. I saved you because I'm human. You'll understand the difference someday." Michael understood. That was the most important thing he took away from everything. Not all heroes wear capes. Some people simply give up parts of themselves so that the one who betrayed them can live.